Condition. Condition is by far and away the most important factor that you're going to be looking for when you're looking to buy a best English sporting gun. I've got a typical example here. We've got a very fine single Boss, built in London in 1969, Boss and Company, one of London's best gun makers. We really want originality, because originality tells you that something has been looked after and has had relatively little use. I mean, this gun, for example, here retains a good degree of the original hardening colour and finish. That's the mottled blues and greens that you can see on the action. It's engraved with a classic Boss rose and scroll design. But we've got, as you can see, we've got a good degree of finish remaining on each lock plate, and we even have a little bit of it remaining underneath. You always lose the finish on the underneath of the action first, because that is where it will rub first. Generally, you'll carry the gun over your arm, and that will rub the finish off the bottom first. But that really is a very good place to start. How much original finish does the gun retain? A second place to look at is the condition of the woodwork. Is it free from cracks and splits? Are there any issues there? Are there any traces of old repairs? Has the checkering been recut? Have the drop points been sharpened? Is the wood still slightly proud to the metalwork? When the gun was new, it's built with the woodworks just slightly oversized. So you've got a few thou proud around the lock plates and on the fore end to allow for the stock to be refinished 2 or 3 times before it ends up being flush with the metalwork. The noises and sounds that a gun has will tell you a lot about how it has been looked after, how it has been maintained, and the amount of use that it's had. You can hear that the locking bolt is bolting into the barrels perfectly, the top lever is returning to a central position, and this is just telling us that the gun is in very sound original condition and that the barrels are closing perfectly. It's a bit like the difference when you open a car door that's done 30,000 miles. The doors will close with a nice satisfying clunk. When it's done 300,000 miles, it might not be making such a nice noise. Let's find something that's going to make a nasty noise. That's not so good, is it? Another gun here, which is a rather more high mileage example, still retains a hint of the original finish and hardening colour. If you push the lever across and open the gun at the same time, you can feel there's a step there when one locking bolt is coming out of engagement before the other. I mean, it's generally still closing in a sound and safe way, but that's a high mileage car door sound, not a low mileage sound, which is what we're looking for. The third most obvious factor now is how tight the barrels are on the action. You'll want to take the fore end off, and you'll want to have a little feel to see if you can feel any play. Maybe just give the stock a gentle tap, just to check that you can't hear any movement between the barrels and the fore end. We hold them up to the light, and we're checking that we can't see any light here between the breech and the barrels, or likewise underneath the barrels. These are all factors that tell me that the barrels are locking tightly onto the action, and that the jointing is still good. And the most crucial factor is barrel condition. So you want to view the barrels both internally and externally to see that they are free of pits and marks. You're also looking for dents and possible bulges, any imperfections. A well struck off pair of barrels should be absolutely smooth on the outside with an almost mirror-like finish, and the same internally. And you're just looking to see that there aren't any pits or dents or bulges or marks, signs of repair work, or signs of potential trouble for the future. You also will want to see that the proof marks stamped on the flats of the barrels. Technical details, all quite important, but the most important thing in this consideration for condition is the fact that we can see it all. It's all crisp and sharp. Likewise, the maker's name and address on the rib, and the engraving here on the end of the rib. Again, all of that will ultimately be lost with time, the more times the gun is refinished with normal use. I mean, for example, this pair of barrels, unfortunately, have been terminally written off, which is the reason why we have them as a demonstration piece. But the reason that these are written off is because we have the most horrific ring bulge. Minor dents and imperfections can very often be raised and repaired by a competent gun maker. One thing that no gun maker in the land can repair is a ring bulge like this. This pair of barrels have been rendered scrap by the bulge that we have here. By holding these up to the light, you'll clearly see the bulge internally as a very dark ring, and externally you can see them as this tremendous bulge, almost sort of hemorrhage if you like, and there's no way that those barrels could be restored without compromising severely the material strength and safety of these barrels. Another factor to test is to hang the barrels on your finger like this and give them a gentle tap. Gentle tap with your knuckle. A nice clean ring like this, a nice clear musical tone, tells us that the barrels are all in one piece. If you get a nasty dull sound like this, that's usually an indication that there has been some lifting, some detachment of the rib at some point, and that will usually allow water to get underneath the rib, and that will promote rust. You will usually also, accompanied with that, be able to hear, just by running the barrels up and down like this and giving them a gentle tap, you'll be able to hear rust particles running up and down in there, rather like a musical shaker. That's the kind of musical note we don't want to hear. And the most important thing, handle the guns, look at them, come along to an auction viewing, have a look at them. You will see 2 or 3 examples of classic English guns. You'll learn so much about condition and quality. Ask questions. The most important thing, just come along. You'll learn so much more than just by looking at this short film.